Women in religion have been forgotten, suppressed, and even liberated. It is a complex relationship. Some people believe religions were founded on sexist beliefs, while others believe those practices were merely accumulated through history. Spirituality may be free, but where do women stand in the modern traditions and practices of Buddhism, Islam, and Catholicism? In devotion, we ask these questions.
The role of women in Islam, the first and the most important thing to understand when we're talking about women is that women are viewed as spiritually equal beings in Islam. And that's really important, especially when you look at the history of religions. So if you look at the Catholic Church in medieval Europe, they were actually having debates whether women had a soul or not. And many of them concluded that they did not. So there's no paradise for them. They just die, and they're like animals. They just get wiped out or something like that. In the Hindu religion, for example, women were seen as part of the religion as an inferior being, the way in which they were created. Many of the Hindus actually, when their husbands die, the woman's purpose was gone from life, so she's going to be cremated and burned alive along with her husband. And these were actually part and parcel of the religion. So when Islam came, the view that it brought was that men and women were created by God. Any good deed that a man does, that same deed done by a woman is worth the same in the sight of God as what the man is doing. And likewise for a sin. So that in terms of being spiritually equal, the chance that they have, because from an Islamic perspective, the most important thing is earning the pleasure of God. So in terms of the pleasure of God, the actions and the value, the intrinsic spiritual value, that's what I mean by spiritual value in the sight of God, is equal across the board. And that's really the most important thing in the religion of Islam, because it teaches of an afterlife. So in the afterlife, men and women have an equal opportunity. They've both been given the same type of free will, and therefore they're seen as 100% equal beings on that side. After that is said, in terms of their social responsibilities or their role in society, now that there are certain different rules and certain different guidance and different regulations because of the role that women generally tend to play in most societies throughout the world, throughout history. So what it's done is it's taken these rules and regulations and kind of made them slightly different because of the roles of the two genders. But what happens is it ends up being equitable. So if the husband is responsible financially, for example, in marriage, for example, a husband is financially responsible in the marriage for taking care of the family. If a woman is working and she has the right to work, she is not obligated to spend any money on the family. So the husband has a financial responsibility, and with the financial responsibility comes some other rights. And for the woman, there's other responsibilities, but one of her rights is getting all the family expenses taken care of. That is a little bit different. It's hard for some people to understand, especially in Western civilization, because in Western society, things have become more egalitarian. So the way in which there, many relationships, I have a lot of non-Muslims come to me and talk to me about, their marriage issues and things like that, because I do marriage counseling, divorce counseling. One of the things that people express when they hear something like this, the women tell me, well, I've been contributing to rent all this time. So you're telling me that technically in Islam, I wouldn't have to pay 50% of the rent with my husband? I said, no, absolutely not. I said, and I'm still allowed to work? I said, yes. So that's the way things have been done. So that's why the rights and responsibilities kind of equal out, and that's why we call it equitable rights. They're not identical because the roles of men and women are not identical, but their rights become equitable and they balance each other out. So I think that's something that many people have a difficult time understanding and processing, because we're looking at things from a very different perspective nowadays.
Women in Catholicism. There's another simple question. Okay, growing up as a Roman Catholic schoolboy, without a moment's doubt, I can tell you the most powerful people in the universe were women. They were nuns. And they really had power. They ran schools. They determined the curricula. These were really capable women, I must say. And a lot of them were, grew up in little farm girls who would never have the education that they had or the power that they have if they hadn't become nuns. But I also say let's not be simplistic about this. There are women that are enormously talented and profound in their spiritual practice of the faith and are real leaders. Certainly we see this, or we're trying to see this here in the Church in the United States of America. There are very few Catholics that I know that would object to women being ordained priests. Very few. I also know that in other parts of the world, the idea of a woman presiding at Mass or whatever, having other leadership roles, is just unimaginable. What we need to do is honor women. We need to honor the greatness of women. We understand that women can contribute to our community, to the church, in ways that men do not. I think it's coming. I don't know how soon it's going to come, but it'll come. And then I will rejoice that God has raised up a leader here in the midst of my family, my community. One who has talents that other people don't have. And the fact that she's a woman, well, that won't be such a big deal any longer.
So in terms of being leaders in the religion, that's really interesting because during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, he was technically the only religious leader because he's the Prophet. So everyone has to go back to him. After the Prophet, peace be upon him, passed away, his companions and his followers become the leaders of the religion. They become the ones who are responsible for passing on the interpretations of the Quran, passing on the other teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and what constitutes what the religion is going to be. And one of the interesting things is that there were several women who were, in leading positions of being major scholars right after the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and their students. Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, being one of them. She was considered to be one of the most knowledgeable of all the companions. And she used to teach regularly. And she would not just teach women, but she would teach men and women. And people would go to her, senior companions, would go to her for religious rulings and for religious advice. And I think what happened is that, most people who study the religion of Islam, they see this in the first few centuries of Islam, that there were very prominent women who were considered to be scholars of the religion. And kind of somewhere around the 5th century or later, that's when things kind of changed, and you find that women become less and less prominent, especially across the fields. They kind of focus only on the field of hadith studies, which is the statements of the Prophet, peace be upon him. One of my teachers, his name is Sheikh Muhammad Akram Nadwi. He's at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. He realized that some of this scholarship of women has been forgotten, and he wanted to do some research on the women scholars throughout Muslim history. So he thought that he would find maybe about 15 or 20 very important figures, and he would document their lives. What ended up happening was that he started his research, and after about 8 years, he documented the lives of 800 major Muslim women scholars, and he published his book in 57 volumes, just documenting the lives of these Muslim women scholars. And he said what happened is that they started decreasing after about the 5th to 7th century, And that's kind of the decline of the golden age of Islam. So what happened is, in the early stages of Islam and in the golden age of Islam, there were several women scholars and many males, many prominent Muslim scholars that many of us know, Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Suyuti, Allama Ibn al-Jawzi, people who everyone knows. They had several women scholars, actually, who were their teachers. And this kind of history has been forgotten almost. So he was surprised himself to find out how much women's scholarship there really was. And I think people really should check out his books. His book was in Arabic, 57 volumes. So he translated the first volume, which is an overview, into English. It's called Al-Muhaddithat, which means the female scholars of Islam, especially in the field of hadith studies. It's a very interesting history. So I think that women played a very important role in Islamic scholarship, but that role has kind of been forgotten, and it needs to be revived again.
Okay. Oh well, this is nothing really special, because it is. I'm very proud of it. About the Buddhists very equal to the woman. Buddhism started 2,600 years ago. Then the quickly formed the Sangha, which is a clergy member, monk. And we at about the same time. The male monk and female monk start at the same time, pretty much. You understand that? What that means is not a different stage, but same equal stage. We call the bhikkhu and bhikkhuni, male monk and female monk. So I'm very proud that Buddhists, our system, have no any big layer or difference in the male or female monk. Mostly Northern Buddhists, they follow the equal opportunity for male and female. But unfortunately, Southern school, which is Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, Burma, Cambodia, they still have some kind of step, male and female monk. Not regionally, but they changed it about 1,000 years ago. By the mandate by some emperor or king, But the 21st century, the Buddhist scholar or the leader, we really pressure on them. You can't do that. The regional teaching is not like that. So now the Thai Sangha, which is Sangha means a monk clergy, we call Sangha. The Thai Sangha or Sri Lankan Sangha, they working very hard to back to the original, the stage, which is the male and female clergy is absolutely equal. Like Korea and China, or Taiwan, male and female monk are about the same number. So female monk, they have their own monastery, and male monk have their own monastery. They're very wonderful harmony, and as I said, in Northern Buddhists like that. But we still have a lot of work on the Southern Buddhists, to follow the original teaching or the protocol by the Buddhism. I think the Buddhists, about the woman issue, we are quite greater than other religions. I would say that, yeah.
When we have a clear framework in terms of what we're trying to accomplish and what type of liberation we're trying to accomplish, that's going to be the best way to figure out how you can utilize Islam to empower women, to understand what role, what rights they actually have been given in the religion of Islam, and what potential, capabilities they have, and what, status they can have within a society, and what their function could be within a society. So when we're talking about liberation from, unnecessary cultural shackles that are being put on, many women throughout the world, especially even in Muslim countries, I think Islam can do a lot to liberate women. Just to give you an example, there are many women who still believe that, especially women from the Indo-Pak subcontinent, there's a Hindu culture that the woman's family has to pay the man or the man's family a dowry or a dower before they're getting married. In Islam, it's the opposite. It's the man is supposed to be giving this bridal gift or this dowry to the woman. And it's not from a family to another family, it's directly to the woman. So this is something that's her right, and she has the right to do that. Many Muslim women don't know this. So when they learn about their own religion, they can actually demand their right. another example would be the idea of women being able to get out of a marriage. Many women think that they're stuck in a marriage, and if their husband does not, if their husband is abusing them, even verbally, or they're just having a very difficult time with their husband, they feel like they're somehow trapped. And there are people coming from Christian backgrounds, Catholic backgrounds. In the Catholic Church, divorce was unacceptable. In the Hindu culture, divorce is unacceptable. But that's not the case in Islam. But many Muslim women, their cultural understanding of what marriage is and what it means to be a wife in a marriage is not in line with the principles of Islam. So when they learn about what rights Islam has actually given them, I think in that sense it can liberate them from these shackles of thinking that they're stuck in a marriage where things are just horrible, they're miserable, their children are being mistreated, this man is just not behaving justly towards them, and they feel that they have to, it's their Islamic responsibility to stay in a marriage like that, and it's not. So that's another example where women could do that. Another example would be in many cultures, women are looked down upon if they're working women, if they have a career, or they're going out of the house and they're being socially engaged in some activities in the community. Islam doesn't frown upon that, but there are cultural sensibilities that people have, and when they understand the difference between cultures that are not in line with the religion of Islam, they can actually use the religion of Islam as a way to liberate themselves from those unjust and burdensome cultural practices.